Okay, good morning, everyone. So I think we can start. I have 91 students. The others will join as we proceed. So today's lecture is about level DFD, also known as exploded DFD. So I'll explain the rules about how to go to draw an exploded DFD, keeping in mind that the rules that we did last week about drawing a DFD is going to apply except for the number of processors. Okay, so and some new concepts that we're going to see today. So let me share the slide. So today's lecture is about 1 hour, 15 minutes. Then we'll look at the tutorial that we missed on DFD last week.
Yes.
Thanks. Okay, so we're going to talk about exploded DFD and the rules about how to go to draw an exploded DFD. So basically, the idea of exploded DFD is one of the rules that we've seen in DFD, drawing models, is it should be clear, it should be easy to read, it should be high level when we start. But you can imagine if we have systems like bank, university, any other software development that you're doing, you can't represent the whole system using only 9 processors as mentioned last week in lecture. So why we did that? Simply for reason of understanding. So basically, most systems are complex. You won't have 9 processors. You might have 100 processors. You have more than that. And it will be difficult for us just to draw everything in one single diagram. Your designer, your customer won't understand anything. They won't be able to follow. And even you will get lost among all these processors, arrows. And so for this reason, it's not. They put some basic rule about how to limit the number of processors so that it's clear. We can follow, we can understand. Like last time we did the case study, first case study tutorial, you can see with 7 processors, 8 processors, it's easy to follow. You can see the entities interacting, you can see the data flows, you can see the data store, and the notation are quite simple to understand. So that's the whole purpose of doing modeling, is to be able to communicate with people that are involved in the project, whether it's designers, developers, customers. So with this limitation that we've seen last week, obviously we cannot depict the whole system. So that's why with DFD, we start with a high-level diagram first. Then we're going to go to the next level. So in fact, we already started with a context diagram, which is considered to be the DFD level 0. But I told you that many people don't really go through that unless it's too difficult for you to figure out the data flows, the inputs and outputs. But you can start with a context diagram. But normally, I move directly to DFD. Then the next diagram that we do is what we call exploded DFD or level DFD. And so saying that the highest level DFD can have 9 processors, and each level DFD should have approximately 6 processors. Well, it's not a rule, it can be 7, but mostly when you describe, you take a process, you describe, it's going to be around 6 processors. Okay. All processors of a system may not need the same number of levels. Like we've seen last time, generating payslip and check. So maybe that process is straightforward. There's no need to further describe it, compared to another process about, for example, the timesheet validation. We've seen that maybe you have to collect it, you have to verify. Okay, there's certain things more to be done in order to get the data from this timesheet in order to validate it. We've seen also that we are going to validate the details of employee. We might validate the, for example, certain categories of the employees. We have a different level of excess hours that they can do, the rate that is paid. So all these might be further described, and we draw another diagram. So it should be clear that not all processors are required to go to the same level of explosion. So it might stop, for example, 1, when we explode, it would become 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. Now you might decide to further explode 1.3. It becomes 1.31, 1.32, it goes on like that. Okay, but how you can relate it is through the numbering that data flows coming into and outgoing of a process at one level must correspond to the data flows coming into and out of the entire figure. So this is an important rule. So when you have a process that you want to explode, like for example, we've seen paycheck, generating paycheck. So basically in that, there was, I think, 2 inputs and 3 outputs. So basically when you explode this process, meaning you're going to next level, it should have the same number of inputs mentioned in the high level and the same number of outputs. We're going to see how we represent that in the diagram. So this is an important rule about level DFD. So how we go about explosion. So we are going to examine each process to see if it's required to split into sub-processors, or it can be described into more detail. Like for example, I say, University of Mauritius has to register students for their course that they're going to apply. Now, does register process should be further broken down? Like for example, is there a need to validate the details given by the student in terms of personal details, in terms of results provided, okay, in terms of course selection that they've put, the priorities. So maybe they didn't put the course that is being offered or they're entitled to, or things like that. So you have in real life, when you go for a case study or a project to implement, basically you have to analyze each high-level process that you've done, whether they can be further subdivided. And as I told you, it might be that some processes are straightforward. There's no need to go into more detail. So the task basically of this is to identify all sub-processors in order to achieve the purpose of the parent process. Be careful, we are not talking about a flowchart. It's not that we are doing DFD itself. It's about sub-processors. It's not about flowchart. Flowchart you'll take up in another lecture. For the time being, don't mix the two. So basically how you can identify sub-processors. So start identifying the normal sequence of events. So for example, to register student, what are the sub-processors that we do in order to register a student? Identify error or abnormal events that you need to cater. For example, if you don't meet, for example, your HSC result is not that appropriate for that course, basically maybe we need to inform you so that you can select another course. So these are things that we might include in a level DFD. So when exploding processors, decimal numbering is used, like I told you, it should be 4.1, 4.2, 4.3. Now, if you decide to explode 4.1, it should be 4.1.1. so that you can relate this sub-processes to the higher level process, eventually to the process that you mentioned in the first level diagram. When processes are exploded, it's allowable to use new data store. So it might be that when you're writing down in more details a process, you might see that you have a particular data store that might be used. It's called a local data store. It's not in the high level diagram, but you are adding it. So this is allowed. For example, a simple one is when you go order product. It might be that if you go to the shop, you order product, the product that you ask is available, they just give you, you make the payment, and that's it, it's done. But when you describe the process of checking whether we have it in stock, it might be that the system offer, if you don't have a product, we are going to record the details of the products you want, and when it's available, we are going to inform you, and then you're going to come in. Okay, so these are things that it's possible when we are, because normally when we talk about level DFD, it's in more detail. So things that possibly was not mentioned in the high level case study, maybe it's found in the lower level description of a process. And basically for test and exam, I'm going to ask only one process. Okay, there's no need to do for several processes. By the way, you have an assignment, a group assignment. The lecturer that's going to take the module after the 5 weeks, I'm doing only 5 weeks, is going to collect and correct. So, but I don't know, I need to check whether the instruction has already been given to you. So you need to select a particular case study, a project that you want to computerize, and you're going to model it according to what we are doing, DFD, level DFD, logical DFD, okay, ERD. Instruction will be given to you. Okay, so just remind me by email. I'm going to clarify it with Dr. Chatter, and when the assignment will be posted, when is the submission deadline. I think the submissions are going to be around week 8, 9. I need to check in the module catalog. But you can still, it's going to be a group project. You can still start forming your group, searching for a particular project that you might want to computerize, or a project idea you have that you can describe. And so this is coming back to the lecture. So when processes are exploded, it's allowed to use new data store. And as long as these are local, there's no need to add it to the parent diagram. But it might be that when you're going through the case study, you identify a particular data store that should have been in the higher level diagram. Then you modify your higher level diagram. Like for example, let's say we were doing the case study about payment, first tutorial about there was tax there. So normally the tax rate is provided by the MRA and so on. So it might be that there should be a data store where there's an update provided by MRA and we extract from it. So then it has to go to the higher level. And again, it's based on your assumption, your understanding. So very often when I give case study for level DFD, it's going to be local. If you find a new data store, it's going to be local. Now, if a new external entity is needed, this is regarded as an omission, and it should usually draw in the higher level diagram. So whenever you're going through the case study for the level DFD, you see that I mentioned an external entity that was not mentioned previously. So basically, this is an omission. Okay, so meaning that there was a mistake in the higher level diagram. We need to correct the higher level diagram. So this is about external entity. Processes from higher level DFD cannot be shown in exploded DFD. So it's a very important rule. When you are drawing your exploded DFD, we are not going to show, because remember, processes from higher level DFD is going to interact with other processes through data that goes from that process to another process, or data that comes from a previous process and coming as input to your process. So whenever we have such a situation, so processes from higher level cannot be shown exploded DFD. Data store and entities from higher level DFD can be shown in an exploded DFD. Okay. So optional, you want to show it, you don't want to show it, but when you are drawing it on paper, for me to be able to follow, I'd advise you to put it. Okay. When you are doing it using a tool, there are other ways of linking this. So we are not going to go into case tool now, but in case you're using a tool, there are some features that allow you to link your level DFD to the higher. But when you're drawing for tests, exam, please show your data store and entities so that I can follow. In the exploded DFD, you cannot have a process with the same name as a process you're exploding. This is a common mistake made by many students, and it is not allowed. I have process payment that I'm exploding. First, you're exploding, let's say process payment is free. You say 3.1. I'm going to check whether your order is correct. Validate the order just in case there's any, because I'm charging you. If there's a mistake, I don't want you to pay for something that you didn't order. So first 3.1 is validating. Then 3.2 is make a request for payment. Then you give the money or whatever credit card or this. And the next process, you're settling the payment. Then the student write 3.3 payment again. This is not allowed. You are excluding process number 3 payment. Is there any issue? Any query, any question?
Can you re-explain that part, sir?
Which part?
At the last one, when you return to a process that it is used in the higher level.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm going to explain it. So let me show you. Let me show you a diagram. So that is going to be easier for you. Okay, this is what we did in the lecture last week. Can you see that?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yes.
So basically here we have process number 3, check result. Okay. Now, how do we check result? Most probably, we are going to compare your SE results, your HSE results. Here, this is postgraduate. We are going to compare your undergrad result. Now, to check your HSE, MSc, SE, HSE result, maybe we have it in a data store. Someone is going to validate whatever you put against. So this is 3.1. Then 3.2, we check the HSE result, and 3.3 now, we have to check your undergrad result, and we extract it from our record. So 3.3, someone write it, it's called check result again, but it's not allowed. You have 3, we are check, 3 here is check result. We are exploding 3 into 3.1, 3.2, 3.3. You cannot have the same name as a, okay? So this is not allowed. So same as I was telling you, payment is process number 3. You're exploding 3.1, validating the order, 3.2, requesting the money and whatever it is, credit card details and things like that. And 3.3, now you write payment. Okay, it's not correct because the higher level process was payment. 3.3 cannot be payment again. Is it clear? So this is when we see an example in maybe it's going to be clearer. So this is the last point about exploded DFD. You cannot have a process with the same name as the process you are exploding. Very often I've seen it in, sorry, I need to share, let me share. Okay. So this was the last point about the rule. Then there's, okay, oh, there's balancing missing. I'm going to explain balancing afterward. Is it clear about the rules? It's quite simple rules about how to draw exploded DFD. And the same thing that we've done previously. So all processes should be labeled, all data flows should be labeled, all entities should be labeled, external entities, data store. There should not be any link between data store, no link between entities, no link between external entities and data store. So the rules that we've done for DFD is going to still be applied with some additional rules that we've just come across. Is it okay? So this was the case study we did last week. So we have applicant, record application, application book. We have check entry requirements, home application, check results. We store the date in application book. We have other application. We go store the date in the application book. We have a request sent to the referee. You have a reference sent to the back, and then you have a letter that goes to the applicant. So this was a case study that we've come across last week. So this was the high-level DFD, just for you to understand the procedure. Now we're going to do exploded DFD. Now, for test and exam, I'm going to provide the case study. Okay, I cannot give you just a high-level diagram and tell you to come up with the exploded DFD. But when you do it for assignment, it's up to you to identify the sub-processors. Okay, so it won't be because any system that you go investigate, it's not going to be described for you. It's up to you to find out. For example, here we are going to explode check reference. So we need to go investigate, but how check reference is done. Then you write down the sub-processors, and then you can draw your exploded DFD or level DFD. So is it clear about this diagram? We did it last week, so we can proceed.
Yes.
Yes.
So here's the description. Please go through the description. It's okay. You've been able to go through the case study?
Yes.
Okay. Just for today, I put it in terms of step. Okay. But normally it's going to be a small case study. Okay, small description like we did last week for the application. Even in tutorial, we've gone through a case study. So it will be a small case study described about this. It will be not straightforward like what I've done today. So today I put it just for you to see clearly that you can see easily that there are a number of sub-processors from the case study. Okay. So we are going to start drawing the case study, but before drawing the case study, let me go back to the high-level diagram to explain to you a bit the rules for drawing exploded DFD. So when we draw exploded DFD, you see that, for example, check reference is linked to check entry. Check entry will not appear in your exploded DFD or level DFD. Okay, this is one of the rules that we've seen. You're not going to show check entry. Entities, you see that check reference is interacting with referee and applicant. So this we are going to show. I told you for simplicity. Check reference is interacting with application book. So this one we are going to show. Okay. Okay, let's start. So the first step is to request for reference to the referee and file that the application. So basically 4.1, so we're exploding number 4. Okay. So the first process, sub-process that we are going to identify is going to be 4.1. Okay, so send request for reference, whatever name you put. And to start this process, normally all process there should be an input. So the rules that we've seen last week still applies. There should be an input, there should be output. But in that case, the input is coming from a high-level process. The rule says we cannot show the high-level process, so we are going to show it only as a data input. Okay, so this is first thing that is going to be different from level DFD. So you're going to see in level DFD some inputs like that or outputs without anything. It's allowed, okay, because this is a level DFD. And we can easily know that it's a level DFD because the numbering is 4.1. Next, when we go through that first line and file the application, you see that it's suggesting that we have some sort of local data store. So one of the rules says we are allowed to put a local data store. So we have application, we send request for reference, we're going to store the application in the application book. Okay, so it's D1.1. You can put any other numbering, but due to the fact that we've already used D1, D2, D3 in that level, so let's call it 1.1. Okay, to avoid ambiguity, we can easily know that this is because if I use 4.5, if there are changes in the higher level diagram, then there will be changes here also. So to be safe, we just put it 1.1. We know that is for that level DFD. And if we look at the high level diagram, from check reference, there's a request that go to referee. Okay, so we are making a reference request. So this goes to the referee. So the rule says we are allowed to have, so if we go back to the rules, when processors exploded, allowed to use new data store. But whenever we explode a process, should be 4.1, 4.2, we are doing that. Process from higher level DFD cannot be shown. We've done that in the diagram. So there's only data input coming, we don't show. Data store entities can be shown, cannot be shown, but I prefer for clarity. So I'm showing it in the diagram. Is it okay? Any question till now? Can you follow? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay, so let's proceed. So this is first line. Second line says the second step is to find the original application when the reference arrives and to examine both to determine whether to accept or reject. Okay, so 4.2. So there were applications that was stored in that local application book data store. Okay, I retrieve the application. 4.2, I'm going to examine the reference and application. So reference is obtained from the referee. So if we look at this, so there was a request sent to referee. There's a reference sent back to the process. Okay, so here there's the reference.com. We do 4.2. We examine, and it says that there should be an output that goes. In the next diagram, we are going to show that. Okay. Third process, the third step is to generate an acceptance letter if the application is accepted and record the date in the application book. So let's see that. So generate letter of acceptance. There's a letter that goes to applicant and there's a date that goes to the application book. Application book we are taking from the high-level diagram. Okay. So entities, data store from high-level diagram can be shown. So we are showing in that diagram. Okay. So this is basically the third step. The fourth step is to generate a rejection letter if the application is rejected. So rejected application, generate rejection letter, letter goes to applicant and the date goes to application book. So applicant we are taking again from higher level and application book we took from high level. So this is basically your diagram. Okay. So we have 4 sub-processes, 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4. Send requests, examine reference, prepare acceptance letter, generate rejection letter. The rules that we've seen in Exploder DFD here are the rules. So the numbering, when process is allowed to use new data store, we've seen that. If new external entity is required, we didn't come across new external entity, but in case you have it, you have to modify your higher level diagram. Processes from higher level DFD can be shown in an Exploder DFD. So we didn't show it. So process number 2 was linked. We didn't show it. We just show the data flow. Data store and entities are shown. So for clarity, I'm showing it. So I want you for test and exam also to show it. In Exploder DFD, you cannot have a process with the same name. So we have 4 sub-processes. Here it is. Oh, sorry. Here it is. Send requests, examine, prepare acceptance, generate rejection letter. And as such, the rules that we've seen in DFD last week still apply. So inputs, outputs, 4.2, there are inputs, application, there are outputs that goes, rejection, acceptance. 4.3, there's an input, accepted application. There's an output letter that goes. There's date that goes to application book. 4.4, there's input rejected application. And there's application book, sorry, date that goes to application book. There's letter that goes to applicant. So as such, and the labeling as well, we make sure that all processes are labeled, send requests for reference, number, the 4.2 is labeled, 4.3, 4.4, the data flows are labeled, okay, same rules as before, and there's no link between 2 external entities, there's no link between data store to data store, there's no link between data store and external entity. So these are the rules that we've seen. There's one last rule. It's strange that I don't have a slide somewhere. Anyway, I'm going to explain. Please note it down. It's very important. The last step after drawing this diagram is what we call balancing. So please note it down because very often students do make mistake about this concept about balancing. So what does balancing means in level DFD? It means that the number of inputs that is coming into the system, that level DFD, and the number of outputs that is going out of that level DFD should be same as the high level DFD. Okay, so we are going to check that. So basically from that case study. So you can see that there's other application as input, there's reference as input. And what goes out of that level DFD is letter and the date. Okay. So if we go back to the high level DFD, if we look at this high level DFD, there's application that comes as input, and there's reference, there's request also that goes as output. So there's other application coming as input and reference that goes as input. So you can see that the inputs in that high level is matching the inputs, in the low level. Okay, other application and reference. The outputs in the higher level, letter, date, requests. So if you look at this diagram, so you have letter, you have date, and you have reference request that goes. Then the other application going to local data store is internal. 4.2 going to 4.4, it's an internal data flow. It's not an input, it's not an output. So input, output is coming from external entity, going to data store mentioned in the high level, and from processors from the higher level. This is what we consider as inputs and output. Then the rest are just data flow within your level DFD. Okay, so it's very important to check that these inputs in that level DFD is matching the higher level DFD. The output is matching with the higher level DFD. Now, while doing case study, I told you that most case study might be different depending on how your assumption and so on. Now, someone might say that instead of writing a letter here, I'm writing acceptance letter. Instead of writing letter here, I'm writing rejection letter. Is it going to be a mistake? Because now acceptance letter and rejection letter looks like two different output not mentioned in that higher level DFD. We are just referring them to letter. So whenever in your diagram you've done that, okay, you've put acceptance letter, rejection letter, below just have to write down acceptance letter and rejection letter are just considered as letter data flow. Okay, that's all, because they are same. It's just letter. We are interested in the data. There's no need to do any modification. Unless now you see that while doing the case study, please write down, these are rules. I'm just listing because even if I write it down, you won't understand what I'm meaning. That's why I prefer to give you the rules as we go through the case study. Same as when you're doing your diagram, you see that instead of having two inputs, other application and reference, I'm getting one input in excess. Two possible reasons. One, you made a mistake while doing the level DFD. You just correct it. Second one, because it's a more detailed description, there's a mistake in the higher level DFD. So you just have to go back and correct it. Okay, you correct it in this diagram here. Just add the whatever input that is missing. But normally for tests and exam, it won't happen. Okay, I've gone through the case study. I know tutorial, it might happen. I don't say no, but for tests and exam, it won't happen because I know already the answer. I'm not going to put one data flow in excess in your case study. It certainly means when you're doing the level DFD, you've made a mistake. Is it clear? But in real, when you're doing assignment, when you're doing investigation, it might happen. So someone's asking for me to explain the balancing again. Okay, so this is the high level DFD. So if we look at this high level DFD to know whether your level DFD is balanced, we need to check the number of inputs and outputs. So in that case, we have other application request as input, you can write it down. It's other application and reference. These are two inputs coming to check reference, and there's date, letter, and request that goes out. These are three outputs. Okay, so two inputs, three outputs. So we check our level DFD. There's other application here. There's reference coming from the referee. So these are two inputs. And you have letter, you have date, and you have reference request that goes. These are three outputs. So this means that your level DFD is balanced, meaning that the inputs mentioned in that level DFD is same as higher level DFD inputs. The number of outputs is same as the higher level DFD. But I'm giving you a situation that where you might get discrepancy, it might be still correct. For example, someone write acceptance letter, rejection letter, just put assumption. These are just letter data flow mentioned in higher level DFD. That's it. It is possible that while doing the case study, you get one input or one output that doesn't match. Because it's more detailed, you just go to your level DFD and you make the changes here. But I'm stressing on the fact that for test and exam, normally it should not happen. It is not possible that I gave a level DFD where you're going to discover a new input. But it is possible that you discover a new external entity, but normally it's rare because I won't expect you to go and draw the higher level DFD again. So that's why I don't give it. I just want to make sure that you know how to draw the level DFD. So that's why, as far as possible, I'm going to limit it to whatever number of inputs I mentioned in the high level DFD, it should be same. Whatever outputs that has been mentioned should be same in your level DFD. Is it okay? Is it clear now? Okay, good. So we'll try one now. Here it is. So this is the high level DFD. So I didn't draw the whole diagram. So if you have it already in the lecture slides, you can refer. So basically you have enter orders that you want to explode or draw. I don't say explode because people don't like the term explode. We say level DFD, okay? We're not going to explode the DFD. So order details, payment details, you have output order, invalid order, rejected order, okay? And entities mentioned here are customer, warehouse department, sales manager. So I didn't show any other processes link. I didn't show any data store, okay? So just for simplicity. So this field is supposed to be the high level DFD. Now you have to draw an exploded DFD, level DFD. So here's the description. Can you try this? You see, it's a case study. It's not like the previous one, step by step I've explained. So just case study, you go through the case study, try to identify sub-processors, then you start drawing. So I give you about 10 minutes to do that. Then we correct.
Sir,
Yes.
can you explain the first bullet point on slide 6?
Slide 6. If a new external entity is needed under explosion, it is generally regarded as being, yes, I told you in real case study, like for example, you're going to try to computerize maybe for your assignment. When you're reading through the case study for the level DFD, it might be that you see that you've omitted one external entity that is expecting an output from the system. So all you have to do is you go to your level, the high level diagram, you add the external entity with the output that is mentioned. Okay? In case it happened, it's not going to be always the case. So here the rule says it's allowed. Okay, if a new external entity is required, it has to be shown. Only data store only data store is allowed to show in the level DFD. Okay, but entities, whenever you come across an external entity, meaning that there's a mistake in your high-level diagram, you just modify the high-level diagram. And again, you write down the assumption, okay, saying that in the level case study, it's mentioned about this entity, it's a new entity, so I'm adding it to the high level, okay? Is it clear now?
Yes.
Okay, so I give you 10 minutes. You have a lecture slide. I'm going to stop sharing. So go through the question and then you try to come up with a level DFD. So what we'll do, just take 5 minutes break, then we'll come back and we'll correct it. So in about 5 minutes, we'll come back and do the correction. It's okay, can we continue?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So according to the case study, so briefly, quickly, I'm going to go through the case study. So orders from customers comprise order details, payment. Order details are checked for valid stock number. Orders failing this are checked to the sales manager. For cash sales, payment are checked against price. One overpayment advice might be sent. Overpayment results in a credit being sent. Underpayment results in payment request being sent. When the payment is correct, the order goes to the warehouse department. For credit sales, credit status is checked by inspecting the payment history file. Rejected orders are referred to the sales manager. So basically from this case study, it might be 3 to 4 sub-processors. But for simplicity, I'm going to use 3 sub-processors, but you might get more depending on the way you model. So let me share the answer. Then if you want, you can share your answer. Okay, so this is basically the answer. Can you see?
Yes.
Yes.
So the 3 sub-processors that have been identified: check stock number, check credit, check payment. Okay, so we are going to go through the case study. Say custom orders from customers comprise order details and payment details, and this is checked for by stock number. So you have order details, check stock number. Okay, so this is 1.1. The orders chaining this check are sent to the sales manager. So where is it? So orders filling this check goes to sales manager. Okay. Then the orders for cash sales, payment are checked against price and the stock file. So if you look against that, it's checked against price against stock file. So I take the price from the stock file. I'm going to check the price. The one of the 2 payment advice might be sent to the customer. Overpayment result net credit, underpayment. So if we look at this, so I'm simplifying the diagram. I'm putting payment advice. Okay, customers making payment. I'm checking it against the price. I'm saying a payment advice. I'm not saying whether it's underpayment, overpayment, we need to return money. Just for simplification. Again, your diagram might be different. So I've done it this way so that everyone can follow. When the payment is correct, the order goes to the warehouse. So when payment is correct, accepted order goes to warehouse. Underpayment result in a payment request being sent and the order is held. So again, I'm using a local data store. So I'm checking payment, the order is held. Once customer has made payment, I'm going to proceed with accepted order. Then you have, for credit sales is checked by inspecting the payment history file. So I have check credit, I have payment history file, I've extracted data from that, and if it's accepted, it goes to warehouse. So you can see in the case study, say rejected orders are referred to the sales manager. So we are simplifying a bit, saying that we check your credit. If we can't accept, just send it to sales manager. So this is basically one particular solution that you can get from that case study, where again, I've done some assumption. Like for example, first line says orders comprise order details and payment details. So I'm not breaking it, just say it's order detail. Someone might come and say that's order plus payment details, it's separate data flow. It's up to you. Okay. So now that we've done the diagram, so the labeling, you can see I've used 1.2 for check credit. Someone might use 1.3 and 1.2 for check payments. It's up to you. Okay, there's no rule about that. I'm using a number of local because in the higher level, if you look, there's no data store mentioned. Okay. So this is assumption that I made. I'm using some local data store, local file, payment history, pending order. The labeling, due to the fact there's no file as such mentioned, but it can be 1.1, 1.2. I told you it's a level DFD. We can refer it to 1.1, 2, so that in case there's any change. But here, so this was a sample solution, but obviously it might be different. So all processes are labeled, all data flow are labeled, all entities are labeled, and we are using a number, assumption I'm making, I'm using a number of local data store. If you feel that it should not be a local data store, then you know that you can go and modify that upper level diagram. Okay. So next thing that we are going to check, the number of inputs and outputs, whether they match. So if we check in the high level, there's order details, payment details as input, and there are three outputs: order, invalid order, rejected order. So I'm putting the order detail here, but I'm putting the payment here. So there are two inputs. The number of outputs, there's accepted order, and there's rejected order that goes to manager. So let's check the high level. So there's accepted order, rejected order, and there's invalid order. Okay, so these are the three outputs. So if you look at the case study, there's accepted order, there's rejected order, and there's invalid order. So these are the three outputs. As such, it looks balanced. So any question about this case study? Any clarification you want? Anything that is not clear?
No, it's clear.
Anyone wants to share the answer that you've come with? Anyone willing to share? You can see whether you are on the right track.
Sir, can you take a look at my answer? It's very
Yes,
simple compared to yours.
Okay, just share. We'll see what you've come. Okay, check orders. You have buy stock number, customer give, you check orders, then you check payment, then you check credit status. Okay. But you're sending both credit and cash sales to the same process number 1.2.
Yes.
Because what will be the issue is whenever a customer is doing credit, it's a separate process. Whenever it's cash payment, so you can separate them, okay, to avoid confusion. Because in reality, if a customer is doing cash, it will be a different process, and credit it is another process. So rejected order goes to sales manager, correct payment goes to warehouse. You have stock file reviews, yes, customer credit and payment requests. Okay. Wherever customer makes the payment. Oh, here it is, but you didn't show it. You just say valid stock number. In the first data flow itself, you should put order details and payment with it. Okay.
Okay.
Then you can use the payment. And there's pending order you didn't show. In the case studies mentioned about pending orders. So you have to add it, but more or less it's okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
So can you check my answer?
Yes, but okay, let me check, but I won't be able to check for just share.
Okay.
As long as you're going by the rules that has been set, let me check yours and then we move to show your answer.
Can you see it?
No. Okay, now we can see. So you have customer first mistake 1. It cannot be 1. So you're doing a level DFD. It has to be 1.1, 1.2, 1.3.
Okay.
Enter orders. So does it call it enter orders? You're referring to the high level process.
Okay.
The high level process you're referring. If you go back to the slide, please go to your lecture slide.
Wait.
It's one of the rules. I stress on that.
I have it on my phone.
Processes from high level DFD cannot be shown in an exploded DFD. Okay, so this process 1, if you're referring to the high level, is not correct. Now you say cash sales, credit sale.
Okay.
So if you have a customer having payment is coming from the sales manager, the sales manager cannot pay for your customer. So it's not correct. Your sales manager cannot pay.
Okay.
Make the payment. So accepted order go to warehouse department. Stock file you're checking, but you're sending the data to the stock file. It should be retrieving the data from the stock file.
Okay.
Payment history as well. You're sending the data to the payment, but it should be retrieving for you to check the credit. Okay. So please refer to the answer. I'm going to share it on the Google Classroom. So refer to the answer so that you can improve yours. Okay, you can stop sharing now. Thanks. Okay, so I'm going to put a tutorial for you to practice. I don't know whether I have 1 or 2 more questions I can give. But please go through the lecture note, go through the rules, and then see the case study that we've done. I'm going to upload the answer. So please have a look. Then during tutorial, you can improve the answer that you're proposing. It's okay. So I told you the lecture for today is quite small. So we're going to stop here for lecture 2, and unless you have any other query with respect to what we've done today. Otherwise, we'll move to tutorial that we missed last week. So we'll look at the questions in the tutorial, question 2. Any question about what we've done today?
No.
Okay, so if you don't have question, let's move to tutorial question. The second, let me share this answer that we just looked at so that you can have a look, those having some difficulties with. Okay, I've shared the answer for today's question about level DFD. So you can have a look, compare your answer and improve yours. So let's move to tutorial 3. Unfortunately, I don't have all answers for tutorial 3. So you'll have to share, and I'm going to check. Any volunteer to share the answer? And go through the case study and just tell me how you identify processors, the data store, and then we're going to check the answer. Yes, anyone with an answer for the tutorial about college correspondence course case study? So students who wish to apply for course have to submit completed. After approval, the application is to return. The accounts department receive the application form, creates an invoice, payments made by the student are recorded, the first batch of student and test is issued from the library, and progress tests are marked by academic staff, and results together with comments are sent out, and the library will only issue study material as. So any volunteer to share the answer for this case study?
Can you check my answer?
Yes, just share. We're going to see. And okay, so basically you have entities that just tell me so that we can check entities that you identified are.
Student, director, academic staff.
Okay, and data store that you've identified.
Students, invoices, and test marks. It's already there in the question.
No, yes, I know. I given. In
Yes.
fact, it should not. it should not be here. By mistake, I gave you.
Yes.
That's okay. No, maybe you've identified more. That's what I'm asking, because sometimes when you go through a case study, maybe there are other data store you've identified. Okay, so you didn't identify any other.
No.
And the processors you've identified?
Also same as
Same.
given.
Okay, check.
Yes.
Check application, register student, manage payment, issue study material, manage complete test. That's it?
Yes.
Okay, let's go through a case study now. So student make application, you check application. So first thing I told you, when you have a process, cannot have the same data input and as output. So you might change first one, student making inquiry, you have application details send or whatever it is. Okay?
Okay.
Please make it different.
Yes.
First thing.
Yes.
Then you have where's the application form student fill? Where is it?
Mm-hmm.
So you're assuming directly it's the application form.
Yes.
Okay. So you didn't include an inquiry, then the application form sent to the student fill, and okay, you can add this, okay, because
okay, I assume that it was already.
Okay, yeah, it's important. If you assume, you just put it down, but I'm just checking based on the case study, you could have add this inquiry. So application goes to, you've not used any data store to store your application.
I thought it went in the student file.
Why is it?
It didn't. D1.
But you've put, oh, register student, process number 2. Okay. The strange thing here is that you assume the way you've drawn the diagram is as if the director is providing application details as input, which is not correct. The application details should be from the student.
Oh.
Can you see that? You're saying that the application go to director, the application details given by the director.
So
but the director is here just to validate the application.
Okay. So from check application, I should have drawn it to register students.
No, if you put, what you can do is you can put the data in the data store, then you say approval by the director. It's not application.
Yes, approval.
It's approval, then you register the student.
Okay.
You have a number of applications, the director is going to approve, give you the validation, then you register the student. You take the previous details you had from a data store, you register the student, and that's it. That's why I told you, you could have put one about the inquiry, then the other one about registering the application. Or okay, you can improve. I'm just suggesting how you can improve this diagram based on the case study. Then you have payments. Yes, manage payments. Student is going to send payment. You go to invoice, you have student files. Second mistake, we are not allowed to have a link between data store and external entity. You have one here.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Next, you have a process about issue study material. Okay. We are not allowed to label if paid. It's not conditional. A data flow is not conditional, just a data flow. But there's something missing here. You have if paid, then you don't have any output. Another mistake. All processors should have both inputs and outputs.
Yes.
Okay, and then you have manage completed tests. The academic staff provide the markings. This goes to student. There's no storage. You should store the result somewhere, I guess. Okay, so
Okay, thank you, sir.
some you can further improve it. This is
Yes.
just what I'm saying from, but go through a case study and make some improvement. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone who has a better diagram than this, we can go through. Because this issuing of study material is quite complex, but I can't see it from that diagram. How you cater for this issuing of material tests.
Sir, can you see mine?
Are you sharing?
Share screen. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, now, yes. So student make application, you check application, approve application, yes. Register student, goes to student file. You could have inserted as suggested the check application, you put a data store to keep the pending application. Then it goes to process number 2, the director approve, and then you register the student. Because you already have the details. So you can, and don't forget the same name as input and output. This is one rule I said. So just change it, like for example, student field, and this is application list that goes to director, and then, okay. Just change the name to make it different. You register student. Then from student, you create invoice process number 3. Okay. And payment, student makes payment, you manage the payment. This goes to, again, the invoice file. Okay. And from the invoice files, you're going to issue study material. You have test mark, so academic managed completed tests. You have test mark that goes here, and study material goes student. But again, you can improve. It's much better. That last part about, because if you go through a case study, you're going to see, let me go through that part. It's quite complex. The payments made are recorded. The first batch of student material are issued from the library who have paid. Okay, so I don't see that from your case study. So there's a sort of, you have invoice, you didn't show the first issue material, it should be base. And then the case study says, progress tests are marked, this you've shown, together with comments. Next week's study, the library will only issue study material when student has written test answers. You've connected it through this here, okay? But you didn't show that study material that goes to student, whether it's weekly, students are responding with tests. How do you, because you say you manage the test, but there's no feedback from students submitting their tests. So this part can be improved, but overall it's okay. Okay, some improvement I've told you. Can you improve that? And then we're going to share on the class.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Is it okay? All others, you have understood the case study? You want me to check one more? We move to the next question. And don't forget, there are some rules, basic rules that you need to check after drawing DFD, because, for example, this was clear that all processors should have inputs, outputs, all links between two external entities, two data store and external entity. So it was clearly specified that you should check for this. It's okay. So let's move to the next case study, which is about MEDIC MU case study. This one looks easier. It's more detailed, and straightforward. So anyone?
Sir, is it okay if it's a picture of our copybook?
Yes, if it's clear, I can read clearly. Yes, it's okay.
Okay.
So what are the external entities you've identified?
Patient, doctors, c'est tout.
So patient and doctors.
Yes.
Okay, so you didn't include healthcare attendant as part of it?
Oh, no, see, yeah.
Okay. And the processes you've identified is same as listed.
Yes.
So what are the processes quickly?
Register patient, book appointment, cancel appointment, validate appointment, record prescription, and record payment.
So you have 6 processes. Okay.
Yes.
So let me go through it. So basically you have patient, providing patient detail, you register the patient. Okay, there's a data store where you keep the patient detail. Okay, so this is first process. Then you have second process, book appointment. So patient give what? Patient number and date of. You book appointment, but you didn't. Oh, you store the. Where's the doctor details? How do you book appointment? Is it mentioned in the case study that you should book an appointment with a specific doctor? I don't recall the study. It seems to me.
With a specific doctor or any other available.
Yeah. You should link with the process of making booking. You should link then. Okay. The
Okay.
doctor details to your booking appointment. So we proceed. So the next process is process number 3. Where is it? Oh, you put process number 3, cancel appointment. Yes, anytime patient can cancel an appointment. So you take from the data store. Huh? No, you need one input from the patient appointment. You can't just cancel like that. You're giving the patient number, you just cancel. You have to input so there's a link between appointment and the process. Is it okay?
Okay.
So there should be a link between appointment and that goes into the cancel appointment. Then you update the appointment detail.
This one?
No, this is an output from the process, but there should be an input.
Okay.
With only patient number, you can't cancel. You have to get the patient appointment details. It's okay. So there should be an input from appointments to cancel appointment. Then you get an output about update appointment. So this is the cancel appointment. Next process is validate appointment. So you call it validate appointment. So what it does? So once you come to your appointment, then we are going to validate. Okay. So you're calling this process validate. Is it? Is it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So you have healthcare here. They give confirmation that you've come. There's appointment details. You validate. Okay. So then this goes to a file check-in. Okay. Good. Then the next process is
Record prescription.
record prescription. Okay, so you have doctor details of prescription. You have record prescription. This goes to the patient detail. Okay, There's previous prescription, but I think there should be a link between the checking details or the appointment details to that record prescription. Because you're storing that the patient has come in a file. It's like you've made an appointment, you've come. So basically the doctor will have the details of that patient, the appointment, and okay. So there's a link either from the appointment file or from the check-in to that record prescription. Okay, instead of doing a checking file, what you could have done is just update the appointment with the status. You had an appointment, you come, there's a confirmation, we validate that you've come, we just update the status, and this is extracted and sent to that record prescription. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Because a doctor cannot prescribe prescription for a patient who did not come for the appointment. So it has to be only when you've come that I can record your prescription. So then you update the patient, then the next process is?
Record payment.
Okay, so the next process is record payment. So you have payment made by customer, you have confirmed payment that goes to the patient file. There's one more input missing. Okay, so we are recording payment, but we didn't have any information about how much to charge the customer. You didn't request anything to the customer, and just the customer is paying. It's okay.
Yes.
So record payment, there should be one more input here. Either after record prescription, you have an output that goes to record payment with the amount to be charged, or from record payment, you take it from appointment file. So there's from record prescription, you say that the doctor is going to update the amount to charge based on what he did in the appointment file. Then you extract that, you go to record payment, and then you have a receipt or invoice sent to patient. Patient make the payment, and you have confirmed payment into a patient file. Is it okay?
Yes, thank you.
So this is just some improvement that you can make, because more or less it's okay. Okay, you are abiding by the rules. You put your entities, your data store, your processors, you label, but there's certain things missing, because don't forget a DFD is showing how data is flowing through your system. Like I take, for example, process number 6. Why would the patient make a payment? I didn't make any request to the patient to pay. Well, you are assuming that all patients, yes, obviously they come, they should pay. But there's nothing that, even here, I'm recording the prescription. How much are you charging the patient? There's nothing mentioned about that.
Sir, can we
So
direct the amount to be charged directly to the patient?
from record prescription,
Yes.
yes, you can send, for example, the doctor has recorded the prescription. From here, just say an invoice sent to the patient. Then the patient, yes, this is allowed, but it should be here. For your diagram, it's missing. That's what I'm saying. So overall, it's okay, your diagram, but certain things that we can improve. Is it okay?
Yes, thank you.
Good. Okay. Anyone else who would want to share the Dr. DFD so that we can go through it?
Sir, I want to share mine.
Yes, good. Just share. I don't see anything. Can you share, please? I don't know if there's an issue with my connection saying unstable. Okay, I can see now. Thanks.
Sorry, sir.
Yes, is it? No, this is not for doctor. Can you
Yes,
share?
I am
more?
changing.
Okay.
Now, can you see it?
No. Maybe it's taking some time, but can you share, please? Can the others see? Because I'm not seeing any diagram. I can see your screen, but did you
Yeah,
open the
can-
diagram? Did you?
Yes, I'm
No.
opening.
So we are not seeing the diagram as well. So can you stop sharing when you share again? Maybe it didn't load properly.
Okay. Sir, I have a problem sharing my screen to let some other students. So I will just fix it and later I will share it.
So what you can do is share the entire screen. Don't share only a window. Share the entire screen, then you open. Sometimes I do get it. I don't know why it's like that. Maybe a connection problem. Just share your entire screen, then you open the document. Yeah, that's it. We can see now.
Okay.
Thanks. So first you have registered patient, you have the patient details. Okay. Where does the output go?
It goes into book appointment.
No, I would prefer that you have a sort of repository. Okay.
Okay.
Because remember that this process is not going to be done one after the other. We are saying that there is, in certain cases, yes, but here for that specific, I'm taking an appointment maybe in 1 week or 2 weeks that I'm coming to, okay, to book appointment or so. Let's put it in a data store somewhere. Yes, we book appointment. So you have the patient details, then the appointment is booked. And to book appointment, as in the previous one, I prefer that you take the data from doctor file. Because specific here that you're booking an appointment with doctor, specific doctor.
Okay. Okay.
Then it goes to appointment. Then you have check appointment, validate, maybe validate appointment, okay, or confirm appointment.
This process, sorry, this process you have not mentioned, but I have found it. And
The name, just change it. It's okay.
Yes.
You put it.
Okay.
You have check-in, then check-in. No, from check-in directly you go to payment. Oh, you have record prescription. Yes, good. You have doctor providing. You record prescription. You have patient prescription, and I prefer that you have more inputs to that record prescription, like in the previous one. So I want to the doctors putting prescription for patients that have come. Okay, so I prefer that there's more input. And the payment, so after record the prescription, then we get the payment, okay? So there should be either a data that goes from the prescription to the next record payment, or from the patient file due to the fact that you're recording the prescription. So you say doctor's invoice sent to that record payment.
Okay.
And a request should be made to the patient first. Okay, the payment cannot come. Okay, I know you want to pay the doctor, but it should be clear that you're making a request to the patient, then the patient will make
Yes.
the payment.
Yes, I can understand.
Okay.
Alright.
More or less, it's okay with some minor changes. Like, for example, you do validate appointment, check appointment. If possible, well, you can leave it because we have only 7 processors, but just change the name to make it that they're different thing.
Well, yes.
But overall, it's okay, fine. The rules are here. You check the rules. The labeling are here. Okay. If you can improve it and you send by mail, I'm going to upload to Google Cross.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I have to stop here for today. I have a meeting in about 1 minute. So let's keep the last question for next time we meet. And we are going to meet on Wednesday for level DFD. I'm going to upload the question and then we'll finish that tutorial that we missed today. Good. So goodbye for today. I'm sorry, I got another meeting. So we'll meet Wednesday.